Put my shit back on this fucking porch. Yeah. I saw you when you got out the motherfucking car. You tried it. Put my shit back on this motherfucking porch.
Sure.
You done lost your motherfucking mind. You don't come up on my shit and took my shit.
You got it.
You lucky.
You got it.
You lucky.
You got it.
Motherfucker. You see this motherfucker just tried to take the car?
We are going to play the music in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait. And we go start this again. What was some? Wait. All right. Yes. 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 Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Wait. Wait. Before anything else, what is this I see in my monitor? I've noticed something twinkling in my monitor. Where is it? Wait. Just stay right there. Yes. Oh yes.
We were not designed to receive from women. Your self-esteem is compromised when you have to ask your wife for lunch money. I'm not saying you got to be rich. I'm not saying you got to be famous. I'm saying that you have got to be the one who pours in, not the one who takes out. When Adam started eating out of his wife's hand, sin came in because the divine order was broken. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? And Adam all of a sudden has allowed the curse to come because he stopped pouring. Women, be careful about pouring too much into us. We are designed to pour into you. And you are designed to take what we pour into you and increase it and make it better. You increase it, you appreciate it, and you multiply it. This breaks all sociological orders of the culture we're living in now, because we are raising up women to be men. And you are not applauded for your femininity. You are applauded in the contemporary society by how tough, rough, nasty, mean, aggressive, hateful, possessive you are, and you are climbing the corporate ladder, but we are losing our families. I know you can buy your own car. I know you can buy your own house. But until you create a need that I can pour into, I have no place in your life. So stop coming home bragging to me about how much you don't need me and wonder why I shy away. Oh, y'all ain't gonna talk back to me this morning. The conversation has become, let's prove to the men how dispensable they are. And it is born out of pain because we hurt you.
Yes. The Chitlin pastor has spoken. Unfortunately. But welcome here to the Chaos Reign channel. As you know, I am go by name Chaos Reign here. And today's stream, yes, as you can see the title, you see the thumbnail, you see the bottle of prescription drugs, this thing we call the red pill. Not the blue pill, because blue pill turn men into sissies and all this funniness that the men keep rhetoric, make them soft and limp and all this shit, right? We are talking about that your beloved pastor, your Chitlin pastor, that most women, and some men, but most women, because women whole majority of the church that goes to church are in these type of establishments that sit and listen to this message every weekend, either on a Sabbath or on a Sunday. They get their black ass up at 7 or whatever, 6 a.m. in the morning, get their nice dress clothes on, their nice church appropriate heels, and make sure they wear appropriate church attire. Now, you know, you got some of them women pastor, or some church women that will come in there skin clanty, very loose clothing, Sometimes you see the breast popping out, and sometimes you see the skirt up to the above the knees because they're looking for a man. But that is not the point of the stream. The point is this: that they go and pay their tithes every weekend, that rack up billions, that the black community invested in the black church, and by default, as much as I don't want to say, but I keep it real with y'all, you don't get nothing in return. Hell, you don't get some free diapers. Hell, you don't get no free tissue paper. Hell, you don't even get some shit. A good portion of that money and cutting back on your rent so that way you don't get evicted, all that stuff. Nonetheless, you invest time in these churches, and these churches at the end they don't give you nothing in return. So, like always, what is the title? As you know, before I get the title, I hope y'all follow me on Twitter at ChaosReign7, and also add me as a friend on Facebook. I go by the name Eric Reign on Facebook. I'm not sure if you dare, Miss Chanel Shalom, if you can include that with the text file, the link to my Facebook page, Eric Reign, if you could, please, because I do want to grow that. And also, please, by all means, follow me on Discord. That link is in the description of the Chaos Reign channel. If you have trouble joining the Discord service and be one of many of the people that love chaos and they want the order or the world to be restored in the order in which the world you live in today, join the Discord service. And those are the announcements. The title, as you can see, it says, has the church been affected by the red pill? And like I said earlier, before we go into red pills and pills of nature for a lot of these pastors, and let me refresh my stream because it looks like it's looking fuzzy. I'm not sure. Oh, it looks better now. Good. I will go into the chapters and books, or one book in particular, of the role of the church in regards to Negroes, black folks, and how it has infected you before we got into T.D. Jakes. As y'all well know or don't know the book itself, it is called The Religious Instructions of the Negro in the United States, written and structured by the one named, or the one pastor called Charles Cocott Jones. This book, originally published back 1842, that's roughly 180 years ago now, to this day. But what is so important about this book, Chaos, that you want to mention or dabble in? I'm glad you asked. Simple. As you know, they brought your black ass here, not in 1619, but around 1607, from what they show in the documents and records in this book. And I think it says here, one of a few things, 45 years after 1562, the English entered the trade under Sir John Hawkins and carried Negroes from Africa to Hispaniola. And in 1567, Queen Elizabeth protects and shares the traffic. Thus, the mother country was engaged in the trafficking of 45 years before the first permanent settlement was made in her American colonies, which was at Jamestown, Virginia, 1607. So it became a colony in 1607. And they start bringing your black ass roughly 12 years later. And you must understand dates are very important to understand where we fall, where we're at, and where it's possibly we're going. I'm going to go through the highlight snippets of this, and I hope y'all can follow me. As you know, Virginia was settled in 1607, which I said earlier. 1671 contains 2,000 Negroes, and in 1763, 100K. And that's a period of roughly 1671, roughly 92 years. From 1671 to 1763. And let me do this. Let me stop the Discord because Discord is going to get annoying, and I don't want that to get on my nerves. So I'm gonna shut down Discord for a second. I'll put this matter of fact, I will put Discord link in a second after I take a little pause for those to follow. Massachusetts was settled in 1620 and in 1763 contains 4,500 and those number of slaves. Rhode Island was settled in 1636 and 1680 had imported but a few Negroes, and in 1730 contains 1,648 and in 1748 4,373. Connecticut was settled in 1635. That's a span of 100 and I believe no, actually, roughly now 480 some years. I could be wrong. Let me calculate my calculator because we just want to dabble off the dome. We want to do numbers. All right. 1635 subtracted by 2022. That's a span of 387 years ago. Okay. So it's 387 years ago. My math was wrong. Oh, and Chanel, you can also mail us another favorite since you're in the building, Queen of Virtue. Can you share the link on my About section on the Discord service as well? If you could do that, please, kindly. Thank you. I'm going to soon start pinning up certain things. So let me start pinning this first. Keep that up there. Let's keep going. And I'm not going to read this book. I'm going to give you snippets of things that I highlight for the importance of this discussion. Because we got to have the discussion of what is so important or why is Negroes so enamored when they hear other black men, especially men that is potent and promising in the black community, that talks about women in regards to how they are this and they're this and they're that. What is significance? What is so important about it? That these niggas are so much happy and jumping for joy, but have not really checked the purpose of what T. Jakes was bringing. And mind you, I don't respect most pastors today in the 21st century. I respect them last century. I don't respect them now. Hell, I don't remember last time I've been in the church. And trust me, I'm not missing much in the church. Besides the nice, sexy Christian women that love to have sex, random sex with other men. Because that's what they're there for. You're not there for God or won't worry about Jesus or Jesus going to give you a man. You're there to find man to fuck. Let's keep real. And trust me, it's late night, so the language is going to be foul tonight. I apologize. Let's continue. What else I highlight on here? Oh, and wait, flip back one page. And in 1680, had 30 Negroes, and in 1774, it had roughly 6,464 Negroes. So it expanded from 30 Negroes back in the late 600s to a whopping extra almost 7K Negroes the next century. Move on. And one thing, and I will say this, for those, I will do a poll, and if y'all want me to do in detail that you want to know more about Charles Colcott Jones and his history, I might do this and send it off to another channel. Matter of fact, let me do that right now. Let's do that right now. Let's do a poll. And make sure as the poll is being created that y'all hit the like button, you share the stream, and you leave comments at the end of the stream. All right, Christians. No. All right, the poll is going to be up now, so I will appreciate all participation on this one. All right, it looks good. Back up. There we go. So I want to see y'all votes on this as the stream comes along. And I would love participation because I want to hear from y'all on this one. This is very important. Yeah. All right. And make sure y'all share this. All right, let's continue, guys. I'm flipping through on this other page. It says here, the great care is taken of the instructions of the people in the Christian religion by ministers, what they call catechishing and preaching twice every Sabbath, and sometimes on lecture days, and also by masters of families, instructions their children and servants, which the law commands them to do. So they have to be instructed clearly on this. Next page. And here it says here, 2 years after he report in his parish 470 freeborn and above 700 slaves, soon on which understand the English tongue, but every few know anything of God or religion. And this right here is only small, but it tells a deeper point that you did not know God in the eyes of these people. The non-blacks, European descendants, etc., in their mind think you don't know God, who God is. And this is written in paragraphs in relation to how they have to instill God in you because you are a ungodly people. Because remember, during the time when Europeans start to colonize and begin their conquest of the world, they had to feel in their mind, they had to indoctrinate everybody into their religion because they're the ones of the faith and the ones that's supposed to save you from the darkness and give you to the light. Let's keep going. I'm just flipping through the pages. Next section. The society were persuaded that this was the method to remove the great obstruction to their conversion, and hoping so particularly in application to the masters of mistress from the See of London would have the strongest influence, they printed 10,000 copies of the letters to masters and mistress, which were sent to all the colonies on the continent and to all the British Isles in the West Indies to distribute amongst the masters of families and all other inhabitants. The society receives accounts that these letters influenced many masters of families to have their servants instructed. The Bishop of London soon after wrote an address to serious Christians among ourselves to assist the society for propagating the gospel and carrying it on this works. I.e., I must sit there and indoctrinate you. You must get the gospel. You know, most people, they always talk about Psalms and all this stuff because they are heavily indoctrinated by the gospel. The gospel keeps you in order for them, for their rulership over you. Keep that in mind. All right, a few more, and then I'm going to give my breakdown on this. Next, the general law of both the humanity of a Christian is kindness, gentleness, and compassionate towards all mankind, of what nation or conditions soever they be, and therefore we are to make the exercise of these enamel virtues of our choice and desires, and to have recourse to serve and vigorous methods unwillingly and only out of necessity. Let's see what else on here. I'm just flipping pages here. This is what I highlighted. And let me see this. All right, two more. Next one I flipped over. What's this? Where's the sentence start? From a proposal to establish a college in Bermuda, the first published in 1725, the bishop remarks, now the clergy sent over to America and have proven too many of them very near qualified both in learning and morals for the discharge of their office. And indeed, little can be expected from the example or instructions of those who quit their native tongue or their native country, on no other motives than that they are not able to procure a livelihood in it, which is known to be often the case. To this may be imputed the small care that Hawks been taken in converting the Negroes of our plantations, who, to the infinity of England and scandals of the world, continue heathen under Christian masters and Christian countries, which would never be if our planters were rightly instructed and made sensible that they disappoint their own baptism by denying it to those who belong to them. That is would be the advantage of their affairs in having slaves who should obey in all things their master according to the flesh, not with eyes serve as men's pleasure, but a singleness of hearts as fearing God, that gospel liberty consistence with temporal servitude. And that their slaves would only become better slaves by being Christians. Berkeley Works, copy by Reverend W. W. Illis. Y'all follow me? I hope this is just follow the rabbit hole with this. What else? All right. I'm going to flip a chapter. This right here. At a meeting of the General Association of the Colonies of Connecticut, 1738, it was inquired whether the infant slaves of Christian masters may be baptized in the right of their masters, they solemnly promising to main them in a nurturing and what they call admonition of the Lord, and whether it is the duty of such masters to offer such children, and thus religious to promise. Both question were affirmative answers, recorded as reported by Reverend C. Chaplain, D.D. And I'm gonna flip a few pages here, not this one. And here's another one. And it's by question number 17. What direction shall we give for the promotion of the spiritual welfare of the colored people? Answer. We conjure all our ministers and preachers by the love of God and the salvation of soul, and do require them by all authority that is invested in us to leave nothing undone for the spiritual benefits and salvation of them within their respective circuits or districts, and for this propose to embrace every opportunity of inquiries into the state of their soul, and to unite in societies those who appear to have a real desire of fleeing from the wrath to come to meet such in class, and to exercise the whole Methodist discipline among their numbers of colors members of 13,000. The number of colored members at that time was 3,893. And here's this one. In 1790, again, here's another question. What can be done in order to instruct poor children, whites and blacks, to read? The answer to this is, and listen carefully, listen good. I don't want y'all to miss this, and I hope y'all go for the replay of this. I'm reading sections of this. I'm not reading the whole book. But after this, during the poll, I might have to include that. The answer, let us labor as the heart and soul of one man to establish Sunday school in or near the place of public worship. Do you want me to repeat that again? Yeah, I'm going to repeat that again. The answer, let us labor as the heart and soul of one man to establish Sunday school in or near the place of public worship. That's where you get Sunday school, people. That's the purpose of Sunday school, is to re-indoctrinate you to the gospel, the word of God. Let persons be appointed by the bishop, elder, deacon, or preacher, and to teach grits all that will attend and have the capacity to learn from 6 o'clock in the morning. Does that sound familiar? Till 10, and from 2 p.m. till 6, where it does not interfere with public worship. The council shall compile a proper school book to teach them learning and piety. The experiment was made, but it proves unsuccessful and was discontinued. Numbers of colored members of this year was 11,682. Now, this was an experiment they done, and mind you, it did work, because like anything, you're running test runs. You're trying trials to see how you can make a better slave back then, even to now. And let me see what else. I think this is the last one I'm probably gonna read off. No, actually, there's two more. Then I'm probably gonna go into something else. The first Baptist church in this country was funded in Providence, RL, by Roger Williams in 1639. Nearly 100 years after the settlement of America, only 17 Baptist churches had arisen in it. The Baptist church in Charleston, South Carolina, was funded in 1690. And the last one, and last but not least, the Negroes were allowed to read, or I should say, there were what they call catechetical schools or cathedral schools, and schools for teaching them to read in a few places. One, the Negro were allowed to read, and books were upon occasionally distributed to them. But the privilege of education were gradually discouraged and withheld, more particularly in those colonies and states containing a large population of them, and whose policy it was perpetuate in the system of slavery. I'm gonna stop right there and give you clarity what was read. Up north has slaves. What you heard was the religion instructions that was developed and created by a man named Charles Cocott Jones in the South, particularly Georgia, and his instructions over time, which he actually developed very much through trial and error with his own slaves, was done in the 1800s, because he died in late 1840s, I believe. But his instructions worked very well to a trial and error that they were designed to do and push to Africa and in the West Indies, or any part when they were taken from Africa to other parts of the world to make them good slaves. And like anything, nothing worked overnight, from what y'all heard and read. Most particularly, slaves in the North, if they were able to survive, were able to get some form of reading and understanding of some form of education, which really, most education back then, if you think about it, most people started to really learn to read was from the Bible. So mostly up north, they didn't have no problem teaching those to read, whether it be bishops, servants, or go as far as just to read in general. That's pretty much up north. But as the South, you were not allowed to read at all, unless they were selecting and watching over the same black man that they prepare as the bishop, the pastor, in all forms to indoctrinate you with the gospel. Now, it goes to what we are going to talk about now in the 21st century. What T. Jakes has left out and said to you Negroes. And a side note, I got this from another channel, that was a Father's Day event when he talked about that thing about women and their work ethics and how women are acting like men. He did that on Father's Day. But you won't see no man show the actual footage or link the actual stream on their channels. Have you noticed that? I didn't notice that because I found the whole stream. I didn't watch from the beginning. I only try to find the snippets of when he said that, because I'm not in business watching long sermons personally, because I hear it constantly. I hear it then, hear it back then, and I hear it now, even to the point now that KS is no longer here. That these dudes now are pushing some so-called ideology, rather as red pill, blue pill, all this nonsense. They're now comfortable saying it now because one man did it and it worked. If I never heard this years ago, either on YouTube or any other media outlet, of these pastors talking that raw stuff about women's role and men's role, even goes hard at women, I would have to say that, this was normal behavior from amongst a lot of pastors. But we know most pastors that take on, 501c3s or all those things, that they had to very much be selective with their message in regards to the gospel, aka the Bible. They can't give you all the stories because most majority Negroes today, because we have books available now and we don't choose to read some of these books, we're being selected what to understand and what is written. And that's just the honest truth. Now, a lot of people won't like that, what I just said, but I'm just keep it real with y'all. That's what it is. It's always been like this. It's because, and the reason why is this, because we're very lazy as a group of people, unfortunately. And that has to change. Now, I heard there's some women doing content on TD Jakes saying that this man should be canceled, all this nonsense. And I'm thinking, you're not canceling no goddamn pastor. And here's why. Because there are the three heads that you cannot cancel effectively, even if you choose to. Because majority of people, where they get the information from or where they support mostly is either two things: the church and what else? Certain entertainment, and I forgot what the other two is, but mostly the one thing on this that black people will support is the church. And most of the money church get every weekend is through black women. So when he made that statement the way he did and told all you ladies this bullshit. And yeah, he just said some things about the man's role and that's important. But we all know most of you niggas don't want to hear about the man's role. Y'all really want to hear what this pastor said about this black fucking bitch. And I'm going to be raw and tell you the honest. That's what they're wanting. That's what they anticipate. That's what they play on their channels. And that was the only reason why you see it go viral the way it did. And that came out on Father's Day 2 months ago. Or a month and a half ago. And because of this, we're not being honest as people. What T. Jakes did was clickbait. And niggers are going to take the message he said and run with the things they like to see and the things they don't want to see. That's why you see me when I put that there. As long as the stream he did that Father's Day event about, woman's role and father's role, it was taken way out of context where they want to find the role of the woman and how it's her fault. Unfortunately. I don't blame it, but I don't follow the church because the church has caused much harm in the minds and hearts of black people for decades. Why do you think the last pastor that was trying to get something done for black people as a whole was no longer here back in the late 60s? I want y'all to think about that. Ever since the 60s, you don't see no other pastor go any harder than that one pastor, which y'all know who I'm talking about. Most pastors nowadays, they're here to get a comfortable living in hell. It is what it is. T. Jakes made his money. Any form of cancellation that these Negroes talking about is bullshit. It's a lie. You're not canceling if you want to. Matter of fact, regardless of the size of his church, whether it is 50 males or 50 females, people go up there because they're looking for answer and looking for another figurehead to tell them what to do and how to move according to life. It is what it is. People don't think no more. They like to be followed. They're followers. Common sense is out the window. in the 21st century. We are more focused on how to get more sex than doing things productive amongst our communities. And here's the funny thing about all this. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to do this stream on this because when I look at the pastor said what he said, and black people took it and run with it, I had to sit back and really think of the outcomes. Regardless the message was good or bad or whatever it is, to say, why this now get a whole lot of attention? Because it's not going to move black women to change the way they are. And it's not going to make you Negroes do any better than what you're already doing already, personally. Because there's no honesty or balance in regards to conversation when it comes to us as black folks. There has to be one point of finger than the other. And because of this, that we're looking for answers, we're looking for streams or titles or conversation that will keep pointing fingers on the opposite sex. And as long as it could do that, people will come and watch the stream and they will go as far as support it. That's a dangerous situation to find black people in today, in the 21st century, personally. You think now because so-called gender battles, gender norms, whatever you want to call it, that's still going on, that you think people or black people will start to get it and start to pull back on something and cut back on a lot of this. Because it's not getting constructive at all. I don't really see the significance of all this hoo-ha and gender banging, in regards to looking for snippets or certain talking points from other pristine people that black people look up to, which is the church and entertainers, which that's the thing I want to add, entertainers. If the entertainer says something as significant like T. Jake said, they would roll with it the same way. Personally. In good faith. Like I said, I don't really like it personally. And people will misconceptualize what T. Jakes was really saying personally to what real message he's trying to get at. And the message is personally what he's trying to get at is let y'all know that the way how y'all moving is not getting your outcomes. Yeah, men could pour into women all day, every day. But if a man not moving in a sense of purpose and being productive, he's not pouring into shit. So it sounds good from Mr. T. Jakes, but majority of men not gonna do that shit. Same for women. If women want to act in a masculine role and move in here like men, that's the decision they choose to do. No man's gonna change that. If you've been raised in this society to just do things by yourself and really feel that you don't need to be dependent on nobody, especially a man, for small things or bigger things. It is what it is. The roles of black men, black women has changed drastically, and we're not changing it back anytime soon, from what I'm noticing. But like I said, I probably will share a stream link, see if I got it wrong, to get from different point of views from people, personally. I could run my mouth more on this, but I just want to lay that out. One thing is evident. The little side paragraphs I read earlier, and it looks like the poll is showing what it is. It looks like on the other channel, probably there has to be a focus on that book is entirely. And one thing to let y'all know about this book, personally, and if you're in the studio, please wave in the back so I can see that you're person. That I came across this book by another, I would say, content creator that wrote in regards to this book. I think it's called How to Make a Negro a Christian. And that book itself, if y'all did not know, it took most of this information off the religion structures of the Negro. You know? So that's what I decided to go look for that book in its entirety, and this is the book I could find. And it looks like more of a condensed book of dates of when these things or events has happened. And one thing is clear, that this book right here, because it's not a lengthy book. Let me see how many pages this book is. I think this book is like, oh, it's under 200 pages. So it seemed to me that I'll have to put that as another what do they call it? Book title. Miss Pat, did you see the thing in the back? I wrote a message in the back. If you could read the thing in the back for me, what I want you to do, just for clarity, if you can, just your hand. So let me look at the chat room. Okay, thank you. That's it. That's all. Thank you. All right, so I'm probably gonna open this up now. Let me open up Miss Pat, since she decided to come up to have some words. Hello, Miss Pat. How you doing?
How you doing, Chaos? You guys did a really great show, you and Amiri on his channel on Sunday. I just want to give you guys a compliment. But Chaos, okay. I've been waiting for this topic, and thank you so much. So let me just jump right into it. There's so much pathology, and you covered there's so many broad strokes, but I'll try to, focus my comments down to, let's go with TD Jakes. First of all, I'm a Christian. And of course, I'm a Black woman. Now, let's talk about what TD Jakes said, for real. And then we'll touch on Kevin Samuels. Number one, what TD Jakes was saying was pure trash. Anybody who subscribes to the Christian religion, the Christian faith, and who has read Genesis chapter 3, where you see all the action going down with Adam and Eve and, the serpent and all that.
How the creation had to be created more than once, the creation of life. That
what say one more time?
That the how life started, it went and had multiple creations. You mean that?
Well, no. I just mean where the part where it gets to the place where Adam and Eve fell. I believe that's Genesis chapter 3. Okay.
All right, I follow.
Right. And that's where TD Jakes was obviously, pinpointing a great deal of his, message, as you played and as I saw on Father's Day. Well, first of all, TD Jakes is a very astute man and in theology. So I was shocked, being a Christian, that he even first of all presented that story, saying that, oh, well, when Eve, when Adam ate out of the wife's hand, and this is where she was pouring into him, and it's just nonsense. It's machismo, chauvinistic, misogynistic nonsense that a lot of Black pastors have been doing for a long time. First of all, what caused the fall of man, according to the scripture, had nothing to do with Adam eating out of his wife's hand. It had everything to do with the fact that if you subscribe to the gospel and if you subscribe to Christianity, it said that God told those two people, do not eat of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. So it was the disobedience. It had nothing to do with the fact that he ate off his wife. Otherwise, TD, are you not going to eat off of Sarita's plate when she has a steak dinner? I mean, these guys, this is what's turning people off to modern day Christianity. And because I have a walk and a faith and a hope that I truly believe in, that's the only reason why I'm not turned off. But if I can see why a lot of people who may not subscribe to Christianity are completely turned off, because these guys now are using the pulpit to push their own little agendas. Now let's get on Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels was birthed out of the church himself, and people who really follow Kevin, I watched Kevin for a solid month, and I called him. He hung up on me on one of his shows. And I didn't celebrate his untimely passing. But what I will tell you, one of the issues that Kevin really pumped up.
Do you know the show that he hung up on you? Can you recall the actual show?
Here's what I do recall. I don't remember the title of the show, but it's funny because we were talking about Christianity on that show. It was a Christian woman, Black woman, who called up. And she was telling Kevin about how, she wanted to save herself from marriage and really, walk out the true principles of, chastity and waiting until marriage. And Kevin, quote unquote, who said he was, avowed Christian, was just like, well, girl, you need to be putting it out. And, so I'm like, well, wait a minute, Kevin, you're speaking a contradiction, because on one level, and this is why he hung up on me, I'm like, on one level, you're always talking about how you come from the church and you're a Christian and all this, and you're talking about how black women don't have any, self-containment and they're
Your
having babies.
standards, like the restraint of not doing certain things.
Exactly. So here's a black woman saying, listen, I'm going to actually wait till I fall in love with a guy and get married. So you're bashing her? Are you serious right now? So that was my call to him. He immediately hung up on me. And there was a few people in the comments like, oh my God, Miss Pat was ready to go in, but he hung up on me, rest his soul. But here's what I'm getting with Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels himself said that he even taught. It's funny you mentioned Sunday school. So he said that he had been not a minister, but taught Sunday school. It was of the Christian faith. And so where am I going with that? That's a lot of the stuff that a lot of black Christian men have. And they have a lot of those attitudes. So really what I'm saying is TD Jakes being affected by the red pill, or is the red pill being affected by black Christian machismo? Because a lot of the black guys who are in the red pill community, let me tell you, a lot of them are black Christian men. And so I don't know if TD Jakes is being affected by red pill, other than the fact that, he's speaking a lot of their lexicon, their jargon and their legalese. And that's what a lot of people didn't understand about Kevin. Kevin was definitely translating a lot of the stuff that you hear from a lot of black pastors. And they really feel like, a black woman is out of her role to work. You have to make the money so you can make this black woman shut her mouth. I mean, and he's not the only one. TD Jakes not the only one. Kevin's not the only one. So that's why I wanted to show you some of the pathology of that chaos, to give you where we may think the red pill is affecting TD Jakes, but TD Jakes and the Kevin Samuels and other pastors, the late Pastor Darby, a lot of these black pastors, they definitely are red pilled minded on their own and have been for a long time.
Okay. One thing in regards to infection and all this, that yes, certain message has been pushed around throughout the internet for some time now, for years now, and a lot of dudes said that just their presence alone with certain message that it's going to affect a lot of people, which I probably would agree on them to that point, to some point. But really, truly, most men, if you think about it, Miss Pat, knew about this for a while, but because we're in the market, and let's be honest, women spend more money than men, that they have to understand their market base. And there's certain things you can't just go willy-nilly and affect your bottom line, especially the consumer that spends money. And one thing that I find interesting that what Kevin has successfully done is that he has made what was already been said through the so-called black or master space in general, made it work where he was profitable. You get me? And he said it himself before he died, like maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, said that if he converted his platform only based on women, he will be a millionaire. Meaning that he has the look, he does have the charisma, and with the right setup, he has proven what he said was factual. Now, only reason why he gained what he gotten is because he did it at the right time, where most people that was out of work or had to be at home at a certain time of night watching certain content, because most majority of people don't watch basic TV no more. They watch things in it now. So now if you come on the right time with the right subject matter and is presented very well, people are going to be gravitate to it. That's how marketing works. And remember, he is a marketer by profession, Kevin. So he knows how to market and spend money on marketing effectively. You get me? He didn't just pop out on World Star Hip Hop more than once by coincidence. He spent the money to put the content on certain platforms because he had the money. See, people don't understand that if you're a marketer, you're going to spend money on advertisement. He said this many times on his platform before he was talking to women, even before or after. People are not paying attention to the deeper message of what he's leaving. He's leaving breadcrumbs to tell you how things will work and how he wants it to work. he was giving game while getting the crowd, the audience he needed. But a lot of us, we don't pay attention to the deeper message. We get really into our feelings and get really into it once people start to come up and start to challenge him. You get me? That's the only time people start to fall really in love with it is when we're attacking each other, whether good or bad. That's the only time you see the ratings start to crank up. But all the other stuff, instead of his dissertation he does every night, people are not paying attention to the dissertation properly. You get me?
That's absolutely right.
And listen, I watched this stream the most. From even while he was focusing men, which I didn't watch much, but I've viewed a few of those content here and there. But really, when he started changing the direction, I always, every time except the last live stream that I missed, that I did not catch before he died that same day, the next day, that was the only live stream I could recall that I missed that night. I probably missed maybe one or two other, but that's one I definitely missed. And one thing is evident that he'll say some things that's going to be off the wall and it's going to get people in their feelings and get people to talk because it's designed that way. You get me? Because women that decide if a man chooses to get married, it's a choice that they want to say, I'll take it or not. And the modern era. You get me? Now, women that decide to go the other route, like Kevin said, and he was dead serious, and I'd agree, said you better have enough money that you'll live comfortably retired since you want to go throughout life if you don't decide to not get married or settle down with a man. You get me? He the options, the options out and gave the numbers. So one thing, if you got to understand, if a man's going to run his mouth, he better run his mouth effectively so people have a clear understanding what they get into so that way they don't regret anything 10, 15 years down the line. You get me? No one said that you're gonna be completely dead if you don't got no mate. Because everybody dies eventually alone if they don't get what they want. So people either settle or don't settle, and it happens. You get me? But at least you know the right information, what it is out here. That if you make that decision, you better be comfortable enough that you'll be fine. You get me? And let's be honest, majority of Americans today, because a lot of us don't have enough savings, that you're going to have to make life with a mate. Just hope sure that the mate that is around you that you could come to agreement. You know what I'm saying, and have some trade-offs. Life should not be difficult in this world by ourselves. You know what I'm saying it should be a little bit easy. It should not be perfect, but it should be easy enough. Because one thing is sad that we misconceptualize that we should have things fulfilled enough that there's no regrets. You know what I'm saying because the diet now as a society, as people where they're trying to shape America it's not looking good because the government is not going to be bailing out a lot of Americans. You know what I'm saying they just keep giving the illusion of inclusion that things can be fine. But when you look at in the behind closed doors, they're taking more money and making the American public pay more in the back end every decade. It's not every decade, and it's intentional because a lot of people are not paying attention to the bigger picture. You get me? So that's why he brought Dr. Sandy Derry on Mary's channel.
Oh yes, I called
it's further education to know the position where Black people are now and where we possibly might be headed if we don't take corrective actions. Absolutely. And if you think about Miss Pat, if you listen to the conversation, the last stream, how one woman, and I was there, how she explains at times that her reason why she don't have a mate because her vision she's hoping that it aligns with the next man she's dealing with. You get me? That's it. It does with some alignment. If it's not, why she want to set out with life with a man and she has tensions that's much greater than herself. You get me? Right,
absolutely. But you know what, Chaos? This is the funny thing about it. There's so many striations to what's happening here. And I want to just kind of toggle back a little bit on what you had just said a few minutes ago. I want to go back to Kevin about him being a dynamic. He was a dynamite marketer. And you got to also think about, let's get back to also TD Jakes here with that. TD Jakes is one heck of a marketer. And this is what televangelism has become. It really is not about salvation. I remember Amiri a couple of weeks ago had hit on the fact that TD Jakes himself, he actually exploded onto the scene in the early 90s, right? because he wrote this book called Woman, Thou Art Loose. Okay. So people who are very much connected with, church going and, the church world, we know this. This is what sparked his celebrity, right? He wrote this book telling black women, woman, thou art loosed, and, you're free, and, and all this kind of stuff. And so he pinpointed that based off of a scripture where Jesus healed a woman. And he told the woman, you're loose. And he was talking about she was loose from her infirmity of illness. But T.D. Jakes kind of took that and kind of honed and fashioned that into basically telling women like, hey, y'all loose too. You free. You're free from. So what I'm basically saying is this. T.D. Jakes earned his bones, okay, and earned his celebrity telling black women, girl, you're loose and you got your autonomy. Now, fast forward some 30 years later, right, from the early 90s to now T.D. Jakes see that the temperature, right, the pendulum is swinging in the other direction. So now he's going more with the Kevin Samuels side of things. Because again, he understands that, guess what? Not a lot of books are about to be bought again on Woman, Thou Art Loose. That's what it was in the late 80s to early 90s, right? Now he sees that the tide and the seasons are changing in our community, where now this is where we got the gender banging. I like how you and Amir you say that, right? Like gang banging, you got the gender banging going on and these gender wars, because now what we're seeing, we're looking at a generation, which is mine, Generation X primarily. We're all middle-aged, we're all getting older, we're all graying. Our parents, a lot of them are getting older or leaving here. And now we're seeing the mess, the chaos, no pun intended, right? Chaos, chaos in our communities. And now we're sitting back looking like, well, man, we really mucked this thing up. So now everybody's pointing fingers at each other. And now what's happening is this: you have not only a lot of men who wants to receive the message of, hey, we've got to now get back to, guess what? Get dad back into his home, get these men back in charge, get these women back barefooted, pregnant, baking pies, shut your mouth. And this is the cloth, the man of the cloth. This is the cloth that guys like T.D. Jakes, these guys, a lot of these black pastors are cut from. But oddly enough, T.D. Jakes himself did not start out that way. He started out as being, I would almost say, more pro black woman. Now he's starting to shift more into that traditional pastoring, because there was a lot of traditional old school black pastors who could not stand T.D. Jakes 30 years ago. I know this very well because I used to follow T.D. Jakes and, Woman, Thou Art Loose, and Juanita Bynum, and No More Sheets. So this is happening in the black church world. Now T.D. Jakes is looking at, hey, now I've got to start switching up the message a little bit and now start trying to appeal to the winds of change of what I'm seeing that's happening. So this stuff has become a marketing ploy in the church. And it's become less about people growing spiritually and having an experiential knowledge of Christ. This is about money, man. This is the thing that's turning me off about it. So it's become about money in the black church. Like, I'm sure you heard about the pastor who got robbed the other day. I mean, this has all become a money hustle. And shame on these people. Chaos, you hit it spot on when you're saying, hey, we're giving our money. Now, I'm not saying every church does it. I'll tell you, the church I attend definitely is involved in the community. Not only in the community, they're involved with, the parishioners. If you need your rent paid, my pastor will pay your rent. But unfortunately, he's a outlier, right? He's an anomaly, and he shouldn't be. My pastor should be not the exception. He should be the rule. And guys like T.D. Jakes and the big televangelists, these guys are getting billions of dollars. I'm literally billions of dollars, millions of dollars, the Creflo dollars. These guys are getting this money, and what they're doing is they're no better than Kevin. And again, Kevin himself came from ministry, so we need to keep that in mind here. And this is what I think was so appealing to Kevin. Kevin dressed like the average black guy who's going to church, because there are still some black guys who go to church. And guess what? They're all dressed like Kevin, with the nice suits on, the nice shiny wing tips. This is how they dress. This is how they talk. This is how they act. Chaos, are you there? Uh-oh. Did we lose Chaos? Oh, where's Chaos?
Relax. I had to take that. All right. Yes, I follow you, Miss Pat. And for those that want to come up, the links and please, people, if you have the mind, you could donate. I'm saying I have the cash up, Miss Queen of Virtue, put it on the screen as you see. Please support, donate to the stream. You know, I would appreciate it. What I'm about to say. As you know, the direction with what I'm projecting now with a lot of pastors now is a lot of the pastors are going to probably shift into the pills. I see it coming now. Regardless that was done on Father's Day, I could see many other promising pastors, even Creflo Dollar probably might be next. Will be start coming with a message that's going to be geared towards, you know, what T.D. Jakes has done. And the reason why I say this is because now, in my opinion, it's safe now. It's going to be safe now because other men have paved the way. Matter of fact, other men like Mr. Chaos sacrificed his life for the men now to feel and comfortable to speak their mind. And Kevin has been telling most of these dudes that you're going to have to be very much unapologetic and be dead serious with a lot of the women. You know?
But Chaos, let me share this with you. This is what I'm saying. T.D. Jakes, he is the premier black pastor, right? He's like the creme de la creme. He's the top black pastor in America. And I really would even say in the world, if we really want to make it, you know, matter of fact. But then you got pastors like guys like what is this guy? Pastor Gino Jennings. I mean, these guys this is what I'm saying. Anybody who's really been involved in the church world, and in the black church knows that I almost feel like, and I know the red pill is, you know, obviously this stuff is born out of the manosphere and this sort of stuff. And, you know, I've been studying the manosphere now at least about almost 2 years. And, you know, Rollo Tomasi, you know, that's more on the white guy side of it. But they have a different, the white manosphere have a totally different feel and vibe to it. But the black manosphere, what I notice is it's usually tied to some form of religion, whether that's Islamic, whether that's the Israelites, and then there's the black form of it. And I hate to say it, there's really nothing new. I think that people are more shocked that T.D. Jakes, because he started out, I almost hate to say it, almost like a pro-feminist black pastor, he's actually kind of now going against his original grain, right? Because guys like I said, the late Pastor Darby, Gino Jennings, these guys have been speaking this stuff, I mean, for ages. And you got a lot of black guys. Look, you go to Pastor Gino Jennings, you know, look this guy up on Google, on YouTube. Gino Jennings, he's got a huge black male following. Pastor Darby had a huge black male following. Matter of fact, those churches are more packed out with black guys than it is black women. But why? They've been saying the stuff that Kevin Samuels. I think Kevin actually brought it out to the forefront to more of a secular audience. But that's why I said we then have to go back to the pathology of Kevin. Kevin's a guy from the church. He's a guy who's from the church world, right? So all Kevin did was say, hey, I'm going to just start tapping into that stuff that I've been hearing anyway. And so you got a lot of these black pastors. These guys have been talking that red pill stuff even before we even knew there was a red pill. You know, they've been thinking like, hey, black women, get back into the house. You know, black women, you know, shut your mouth. And I'm not saying that some of them are that drastic, but some of them are that drastic. They're like, hey, the problem is black women, you're working. We need you guys to stop working. We need you guys to just be back in the home, shut your mouth. And then conversely, what they'll tell the black guy, and this is what T.D. Jakes was saying, black men, in order to keep her mouth shut, make sure you're making enough money to take care of her so she can keep her mouth shut. And then you can run your house in peace. I mean, this is nothing new, Chaos. Unfortunately, this has been going on. What I'm basically saying, the red pill has been in a sector of the black church for a long time. It's just the fact that such a high prominent figure like T.D. Jakes, shockingly so, is now tapping into that vein when he didn't start out that way.
Well, like I said before, there's a season and time for everything, and usually that all comes about with the sacrifice of other men. And you know, one thing I never did a stream on, and I know some contraries might maybe covered, maybe not, is really the focus on, there's really is a check only when a black man is dead. Personally, I'm saying. And I said personally that in society today, that if you want to make someone or come up or whatever, it's better you talk about this black male. You know what I'm saying? It makes somewhat more sense. And not only just talk about, but talk about in a effective way to grow following, because it's safer. I mean, because
absolutely.
And I don't want to say this, but I'm keeping real, because let's be honest, what black men today gonna really do when a whole bunch of the opposite sex goes at it hard and a lot of things? I mean, there's very little black men could do is probably do a counteraction, but I mean, you don't got enough because there are more women than men. You know what I'm saying? And not only that, there are more women that will sit there, watch, and follow women more than they'll watch certain men. Personally, you know what I'm saying?
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
At times, not saying a man's in a island of himself, but you are very vulnerable as a man in this society, especially a black man. And I'm not telling most black men they should give up or not do nothing. I say you could do something, but you might not have to do this by yourself. Because if you do this by yourself, you're easily prey and food to the wolves.
That's exactly. Well, that's perfect, Chaos, what you just said. Because as you were saying that, I was literally thinking, it's like I see what's happening with black men. It's like they're getting high off of their own supply. And what I mean by that is this, I'm old enough to remember when, like you said, black women, and not just black women, women in general. And this is understandable. I mean, you hear guys like BGS and, what is that other guy's name? The General and all these kind of guys. They're like, well, black women, you guys have had all this, you guys been able to communicate, going back into the times of Oprah. But again, that speaks to the fact that Oprah wasn't just there for black women. As a matter of fact, I would peradventure to say Oprah probably had more of a white woman's audience following her than black women. Okay. I spent many days home looking at Oprah back in the day. But here's the key. The reason why women had more of a voice going back in the 90s and the early 2000s and even in the 80s is because why? Women tend to be at home more, right? Especially back in those days, women were at home more. So women, while you're rocking the kids or, fixing their lunch or cleaning the house or whatever, doing laundry, media understood. We want to, build off of these audiences. So guys, while you guys were at work doing whatever you're doing, that's one reason why you didn't have the voice. Now, because times have really changed, women are basically working at almost the same pace as men now, because like you said, it takes really two incomes now to really make it happen. And then now you've got social media and internet and all of this kind of junk. Now, guys, especially black men now, are just losing their minds and they're feeling themselves. And they've brought the barbershop talk that, they probably talked about when they would get their beards trimmed and their hair cut and their linings. Now they brought this stuff onto the forefront. And some of it is good. I'm not going to say all of it's not good, but I'll tell you a lot of it's bad. Just because you've got something that you want to say, you probably shouldn't always say it. And I think that what it's doing is it's lending itself to more hostile feelings. And it's lending itself to more visceral feelings in our community per se, because there's no filter with some of these guys. I mean, you hear guys like Obsidian and these guys are outrageous. And I'm like, the stuff that they say, you're like, are you guys even adults? Or are you guys like 15 years old and you're still pissed off about the girl who turned you down? And, it's almost unnerving. And I almost feel like, man, is it a good thing that y'all got the platform? Because even a lot of stuff that Kevin said, it was so outrageous. It's like, is this really good that you guys are saying everything that you want to say now? Because it's not really, like you said, it's not being constructive.
Well, like I said, man's gonna do what they're gonna do at the end of the day, regardless if it's constructive or not. Like I said, I look at it as a big hustle, a very unique hustle, a very easy hustle if you structure it right. Personally, like I said, everybody's trying to turn $1 into $2, and like I said, most people, personally, if it's not talking about the opposite sex, you're not getting no traction. Hell, even on Clubhouse, if you listen to Clubhouse, Miss Pat, it's full of
Clubhouse is trash. I got rid of my Clubhouse. It was trash.
So you didn't even stay a whole year into it, listening to all the content on Clubhouse?
I stayed on Clubhouse for 1 month, and I felt like this is the most lowbrow, trashy. I mean, there was nothing constructive. I won't say nothing, but most of the conversations, I felt like, man, I'm on a schoolyard back in high school, guys versus girls. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of immaturity going on here too, Chaos. But go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, continue. I'm listening. I want to hear this.
Well, no, basically what I'm saying is, listen, I like intellectual discussion, right? And there are problems. We know this in our community. There are problems, you know, that our women, we need to polish up. And as the old song say, tighten up on our backstroke. But I would say that's true for our men too. And I know the only way that we're going to get there, and the only way we can get there, is we have to listen to each other. We have to articulate our feelings. We have to articulate our needs, our hurts, our wants, our desires. And I don't really see any of that happening. I mean, just like, you know, hey, like, you know, a lot of people like Cynthia G. I don't care for Cynthia G, because I was through with her when she started advocating, you know, that Black women should start, you know, annihilating black male children. So I mean, I'm going to use the right word because I don't want you to get your trouble.
Don't worry about details, please.
Right, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, so my thing is, you know, when do we as men and women, Kevin was outrageous on a lot of things that he said. When do we as Black people learn how to talk to each other and talk through our problems with mutual respect, with a mutual ear to listen? Because we're not going to get there, Chaos, when we're just being like a bunch of kids in high school, you know, pissed off at each other and, oh, well, you did this, well, you did that, but you suck, but no, you suck, but you suck more than me. But I mean, it's like, man, are y'all grown? Are we back in 8th grade? Are we back in, you know, 11th grade? That to me, I think, is what I'm seeing. And that's, you clearly see that kind of foolishness on Clubhouse. And to me, it's like we're going nowhere fast. What are the solutions? We need results in our community. What are the solutions? And how can we get there in finding a way to communicate and have conflict resolution? That's where I see where this manosphere, red pill crap, all this stuff, whatever the women are doing, Black feminism, I think it's all crap to me, because neither side is really bringing us together for the healing we need for our community, for our children, for our generations. So to me, I think we're not going to get there until we learn how to do that.
Okay. And I think there's a question: why do men always have to censor themselves? I'm not sure if that's a question directly to Miss Pat. If you want to answer,
what's the question again, Cass? Can you read it again?
Here, why do men always have to censor themselves?
Oh, that's a great question. Do you want me to tackle it, or you want to tackle it?
No, you go ahead. I'm not answering it. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, you're a man, but I do want you to follow up if you can. I'll say from a woman's perspective, it's not that I think men need to censor themselves, but let's just be honest. And Cass, I think you'll agree. Men have a way that they communicate, and women have a way that we communicate as women. And I grew up in a household with 3 brothers, right? And the way my brothers talked when they were just around each other, it's very gritty. It's very blunt. It can be very grimy. And men, you guys get that. And I think a lot of times, you know, men forget women, you know, even if we try to act tough or whatever, we're not guys. And we do have more emotional and sensitivity to certain things. And so I don't think it's the issue that men have to censor themselves. And I think men need to understand that, guess what? When you're talking to a woman, you there's certain things, I mean, that you can talk to your homeboy, and you can say it in your homeboy. You may say, hey, man, I mean, even the things I used to hear my brothers say to each other, I go, oh, my God, I would never say that. You know, just being a female, it's just not in my character, right? But guys, you guys have more of a, like they say, locker room talk, boys talk, right? Guys talk. And it is definitely, you know, it's a little gritty. And so I'm not saying that men should censor how they feel, but I do feel that sometimes men, and they say women sometimes are the better communicators in certain ways. I don't think that means that we're better. I just think that women, we learn from our standpoint in society. Think about it. Do you know one reason why ladies like Cardi B and Lotto and these women are outraged? Because people tend to kind of grimace more when you're hearing women dropping F-bombs and, P bombs and D bombs and B bombs. It's more, we can try to pretend that hey, we're in a modern age, but it still kind of rubs people the wrong way when a woman is, just really grimy with her language. But you can hear a guy say it all day. You can hear him cuss all day long. He'd be like, okay, well, hey, he's just being a guy. So that's what I think. I don't think men need to censor themselves, but I do think that men should find a way when you're interacting with women, be aware I'm talking to a woman. I'm not in a room with all my locker room guys where we could just get on down to it and get, nitty gritty. So that's my response.
Okay. My thing is this: a man should always be assertive, regardless the outcomes. One thing I find interesting, I will have to agree with Mr. Nate, that if a man has a certain tone and that's how he expresses himself, I'm not going to try to censor his tone per se. The only thing I would say with any tone is try to be somewhat respectful as possible. I don't expect fresh, but if you're going to be tone, be direct and not too over flamboyant with it at times. Because be honest, most people don't want to hear a certain tone from black men personally, and when a black man assert his tone and like he has a deep voice and he's very hard with
it's powerful.
It's gonna be problematic. Because let's be honest, fellas, ladies not accustomed to it because they getting things too sweet.
That's right.
Soft. And we as men, we don't want to be sweet and soft. And I'm saying we men here. I'm saying we gotta be rough here. If women come in, they need to say, okay, they need to hear some of that masculine energy, that voice. So we got that voice. You're gonna go a long way, my dude. That's all I gotta say.
Exactly right. Yes, you're right, and that's exactly right. I think men listen. My dad would listen. My mother would fuss all day long when we were coming up as kids. My mother would fuss all day long, and we would pay hardly any mind to my mom. I love my mother, but we just wouldn't. That's just how kids are. But my dad, he would say something one time, and when he's got that deep, heavy, black guy voice, hey, we would like the fear of God would strike our bones. So I think that, man, you guys have that. You have that je ne sais quoi, and it's powerful, right? And so you don't have to be heavy-handed. I really don't think so. I think that for a woman being on the receiving end of communication from a man, it's more effective when he will just speak to her in more of a kinder tone. But I mean, it's just like with us. I mean, I would say reverse that with women. I mean, guys, you guys don't like for us to nag, right? Because women, most of us, we've got that in us. Yours truly, me too. We can kind of get into nag mode, where we're just running the mouth and it's going nowhere. So my thing about communication is, do we want to have a monologue or do we want to have a dialogue? Do we want to get results and solutions, or do we just want to, get on a tangent and get on a soapbox? Well, if that's all you want to do, then understand that what you're saying is it's probably going nowhere. It's probably going in one end, out the next. But if you really want to communicate where we can get to solutions and resolutions and results, then you want to communicate, whether you're male or female, to the other gender where it's respectful, because that is what's going to be received. It's not going to be received if you've got this strong tone and you're sounding like my dad, or you're about to cuss me out and bite my head off. I'm not going to listen to nothing you talk about. And I would say a woman, same thing with a woman. If she's nagging and going crazy on a guy, and you guys are not going to listen to that. So I think what do we want to achieve? Do we want to just get on a soapbox and run our mouth and have a monologue? Fine, but it ain't going nowhere. Do we want solutions? Do we want a dialogue? That's, I think we need to look at what is the objective.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let me read some comments. I asked Mr. Louis Convier a question that he stumped the Miss Lady with the, I guess, pink pills, more drugs. It says here, she was running her mouth with the rhetoric black men are violent, lazy, blah, 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 and are somewhat, take advantage of the vagina. So when I came up, I asked her, due to nature or nurture? Yeah, that's gonna stump a lot of women, my bro. And that's a good question. That's a good question. You ask her. Yeah, she's gonna get stumped when she asks the real question. And really, let's be honest. You know what I'm saying? She still got to keep pushing the narrative, as you know, Lewis, that you ain't shit. You ain't about something. You're not about something. This Brad is more all this and that. But find out, you know what I'm saying, you divorced from Brad and let you know saying this should be forever. You made it. But you see, I tell people many times, you know, once you date out, you know, and either it works out or not, you could always come back to the Black community. And there's going to be a point where a lot of Black folks, can't speak for myself, but just in general, that you will not come back. You know what I'm saying? If you decide to go over there, you must stay over there. Now make a life over there. You see?
No running in and out of the house, right, Chaos?
It is what it is. What it is.
Right, no running in and out of the house.
But the reason why, because and my thing with a lot of people that decide to interracially date and have kids and swirl out, that saying really where you really gonna go? Because there's no actual community for majority of people that date the 20% of the opposite mate, which is non-Blacks that choose you. And I mean 20%. Wait, hold on. My banner's off. Hold on. Yeah, that's one. Okay. The 20% that choose Black people is a direct result that there's an 80% that choose their own race. So if you're getting the 20%, you're getting the leftovers. That ain't nothing. That's garbage. And it's really attest to this, and I agree with my brother on that. That when you see any person of prominence that dates one of us, that they are the lower of their group, personally. And this applies not only to the males that Black men are able to get, the non-Blacks, but also the men that get the non-Black women. You know what I'm saying? That same way. Because if these who had the option and they pick, you think they're gonna come and pick us out of their own, which they have status and have real security in a country that's they're the majority. You think they're just gonna sit there and say, I'm just gonna take a Black person? Are you out your mind? You gotta be on drugs. And I would have to say personally that a lot of y'all that's taking these pills has really infected your subconscious brains, your thinking, personally, in my opinion. But that's just me. Let me see what other comments up here. Let's see. Yeah. Let me see. She was quiet for a second, then she replied, I don't care either way. When she gave the answer, I know she didn't even believe what she said. Yeah, she didn't believe because she can't give you that goddamn answer, like I said. Because she gave you an answer, she knows that you are nurturing the problem that you're complaining about. Now, the smartest thing a person could do, if you're having sons, that if you are selected or not, that you should just, as your son reaches teenage or past 10 or whatever, that he should spend the majority of his father just to get the other side, regardless of what his position in life. Because at the end of the day, he needs to know what his father is, what he does, and his father's got to make a decision on how his son's going to turn out personally. And if you don't give the man that you had this kid with that leeway, then you can't complain once your child becomes what you're complaining about now in the society. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And let's be honest, most dudes, I'm gonna tell you this secret, Pat, don't really want to pay no woman no child support, and they really want to really have control of the kids personally. And I'd agree with Mary. So the best thing to resolve this thing about money and all this with the kids is you put the burden and pressure on him. Say here, he's at a certain age now. Take him and raise him. I won't ask for nothing else. You know what I'm saying? You do it, please, and you're gonna really see what type of person he is. Now, if he refuses and all stuff, and that means he by default said, well, you better off just give him the check and then just be that weekend father. But if you care more than anything else, then you will be glad that I give you the son or daughter, but mostly the sons I'm more focused on. You give them to me and say, you raise them the best you can to rest until you reach adulthood. And you don't have to complain about the outcomes of how these boys going to turn out, because now you put the burden back on the man.
That's right.
Because women feel that it's better to have something than nothing, that they're going to keep holding these children hostage as long as until, dear God, to their too problematic and is leaving for the streets, which is a no-no, in my opinion.
Well, Cass, let me jump in and say something on that, and I'm going to just give the woman's perspective on it. I mean, and this is just, I can't say this is from personal experience. This is from, I would say, anecdotal experience of knowing, women in my family and friends and just, other women that I know. What I have seen Okay. And I'm a big advocate for marriage. I'm like, listen, I'm not saying that marriage, every marriage is successful, every marriage is perfect, because I mean, this is why we have divorce. But I would say you definitely give your kids a better shot when you try to walk that line. And I'll tell you why. I mean, listen, we're dealing with a lot of the, I hate to keep using this word, but we're dealing with a lot of the pathology, a lot of the pathos of the male gender and the female gender. And there's something in the male gender that have even seen in my own relationships. But, men tend to be more in tune with the children that they've created with the woman when they are actually with the woman, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And what I've noticed is that usually when I won't say usually, but I'll say sometimes when there's a breakup between the man and the woman, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes the children kind of pay the price for that from the male and the female side. And I agree, a lot of women do use their children, as collateral damage, as hostage. I hate that. But then there's a flip side of that I see that men do. A lot of times they'll say, well, hey, if I'm not, pardon my French, we're going to get a little grown. If I'm not banging this broad, then, I kind of lose some of my, my excitement for dealing with my kid. And I think even Amiri had touched on that a few months back. There's something about the male thing, like, hey, yeah, I'm going to be there for the kids. I mean, let me explain it to you this way. This is the reason why I've seen a lot of women complain. They'll say, wait a minute, I gave this guy, let's say 2 kids, right? Yeah. We broke up. He stopped doing for his kids. But then he goes and gets this other broad. He marries her and he's doing for her kids. That's not even his seed. Why is that? Because I think that men tend to be more present in the lives of children where they have that intimacy with the woman. And I think that this is the dangers that I think men and women, conversely, when a man is not there, she's going to look at that child like, now this child, I'm not saying all women will do this, but sometimes there's an instinct in women to say, listen, you know what? I'm not getting what I think I need or what my child needs to get. Now this is going to become war. And so then the children become, unfortunately, they become the casualties of the war between men and women sometimes. But I think this is what happens where, men a lot of times will fall away, even from their own children, if they're not being sexually intimate with that woman. I'm not saying that's true for all men, but that is something that exists. And unfortunately, it's a real aspect of it. And so, we're always, I think, dealing with the pathology and the, just the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, basically just the core innate nature of men and women, and we are different. We are different.
Yeah. I mean, different in a good way. Make sure you guys like the stream. Hold on, I'm trying to do something. Keep talking, Miss Pat. Let me handle this.
Yeah, well, I'll just add a little bit more to that. And that the word I was looking for is our primal instincts. And men and women, we have, male and female, we have our primal instincts. I know we live in a day and time where people are like, hey, I'm, pronoun this or pronoun that, or non-binary. But hey, listen, God bless the people who subscribe to that. But at the heart of it, guys are guys. And gals are gals, and there's a certain mental and emotional wiring that goes with that. I mean, we can pretend that there's not, but it's not just only physiological. It's not only that we're just dealing with, this entity has a peen and this one has a badge. There's mental. I mean, you have psychologists and doctors and scientists who've even run studies on, when we eat. Certain things, like when women eat chocolate, right? There's certain, electrons and neutrons that light up in a woman's brain versus when a man eats chocolate. I mean, things like that, So there's certain things that they can show a man visually, and there's parts of the male brain that will light up, and a woman, can see that same visual, and it's like it's nothing there. So I think we're kidding ourselves if we believe that men and women, that we're not so beautifully, and I agree with you, Cass, I think we're beautifully different. But I think those differences We have to learn how to work together, and they're there to complement each other. I just think that it takes maturity. It sometimes take, going through, trial and error. But I think we can get there. And I just think we just, as a Black community, we got to just kind of sort through it. We are different. And I don't think it means the other person is bad. I don't think it means that, one person is better than the other, but we got to figure it out. Because, I mean, more than any other community, we see where it's taken us. The gender wars is really, our community is already fractured. It's fractured by so many different things of systemic racism and all kind of stuff. I mean, it's like the least thing that we need to be fractured over is this gender crap. It's just, I don't know, Chaos.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I get it. Let me see, it was written, women are the ones that mostly who break up the families. Okay, yeah.
I disagree with that. Totally. Go ahead, Chaos. I'll...
Okay, that's fine. One thing is, Evan, and it's funny, I always look at how long, in regards how long the Black church will stand. I think I give it another century, by the end of the century at best, because usually Black church only exists when there's Black people. And we all know that if these churches and men that's not really there like they used to for the last couple of decades, and women are what's holding up, that say, imagine now the complexity of church changed because now people are having children that's mixed, that eventually these mixed children don't have no emphasis going to these Black churches, especially depending on the parent that they come out of, the other parent. So I give the Black church a timetable of how long they're going to be around. You know what I'm saying? I would say I give them to like maybe after 2060 maybe, or 2068. Well, and that's like over a decade or more after the so-called browning of America, because remember, Black church is really where there's Black people that's in church. And last time I checked, you don't see a lot of children that's a byproduct in mass in Black church. But that's just me. But if you want to add on to what I say, go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, this is what I feel. I feel that you'll always have the Black church around. I feel that you'll always have the church around, but I don't think it'll be what we have traditionally known it to be. And I actually have to credit Larry Reed. I don't know if you're familiar with him, Larry Reed Live, but Larry Reed, this guy said, look, he says, he had an epiphany a few years back. And he says, listen, the Black church is going to have to understand that we are now in, we're in the metaverse, right? And I see that church is going to, for lack of a better way of saying it, it's going to kind of evolve more into being more of a social experience as opposed to the old school traditional experience where, when I was a kid, we get all dressed up and dolled up. And, you look at where churches are now, even the church, in general, where it's the churches may be predominantly even white, I remember when we were coming up as a kid, you dare not wear sneakers or, tracksuits or Adidas tracksuits or had tattoos. And if you go to the average church now, I mean, the young people that go there, I mean, man, they're tatted up, they're wearing their, Vans sneakers and stuff. And so even that, I mean, my grandmother would be rolling over in her grave to see that because you just didn't do that. So I think the church will always be around. But I think it's going to evolve into more of a, like I said, more of a social kind of thing. Like right now, the most popular church right now is Zoom church. After the pandemic chaos, they said that a lot of churches folded, because people couldn't physically get there. And now people are just realizing that, hey, look, people who want a real religious and spiritual experience, they realize that, guess what? I'll get that better, perhaps, hearing the word, listening to that while I'm vacuuming my floors or, feeding my kids some Fruit Loops and really taking that in versus being in this building where sometimes, there's a lot of church politics going on. There's a lot of nonsense. I got to worry about if someone's going to be cheating on my spouse with, So I think that so much has happened in the traditional way church has been viewed. I think that now that's also going to head more towards the metaverse and social media So I believe the church will always be around. The black church will always be around, but I don't think it'll be, like you said, in the more traditional sense, because I mean, it really isn't like that now. I mean, the churches are really kind of holding on since the pandemic, in the more traditional sense. It's holding on by a string.
Stay right there. Stand by for a second.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me see. Let me add somebody on here. Look like somebody in the studio. 1 second. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I know how that. Anyway, I add you. All right, what's good, Deidre?
What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm good. Did you see my little short clip about this with Mr. TD Jakes?
Yeah, I saw that. I'm in the church sector, so I kind of do my little thing. I've been in, so I heard the sister talking about Larry Reed and a lot of other guys and stuff in church, and the church.
Have you been to TD Jakes church before? I know you're in Texas.
Yeah, I went there one time like years ago. I'm not big on mega churches. I actually dislike mega churches. What I can say is, I have mixed feelings about TD Jakes. He does a lot of work, but I kind of fell off with TD Jakes when he pretty much went into the thing with George Bush when they did the what do they call the church-based initiatives?
Oh yeah, to add extra more spies to black community by having these pastors start snitching.
Yeah, so to me, when a lot of people don't know that there were a lot of mega churches and a lot of particularly these large conglomerates such as Joel Osteen and all these other guys. They operate like a corporation, and they got a lot of money from the Republican Party with those faith-based initiatives. I'm talking tons and tons of money. They're still benefiting from that. And I'm not saying that churches don't do good work. And I'm saying that TD Jakes does good work at the Potter House. However, what I come to learn when I started doing business in Dallas from 2015, and when I was going there routinely, and my sister, I have an older sister that has went there, meaning she never joined the church, but she went there, and she says everything that the church does, there has to be some type of TV reporting. There has to be some type of thing where they're showing it on the news, and it's like a lot of stuff that they do is for show. She said one big thing that he did, it was like I want to say back in 15 or 16, and it's that was a big initiative to decrease the homeless population and feed them and stuff like that. And he went out there. I mean, he did great work. We went out there. They tried to get people signed up to go to shelters. They helped people, assist them in getting housing, other benefits. But they had TV cameras everywhere, and she was kind of like, that's kind of where she kind of fell off with him. Is like, it seemed like everything that he does is like, it's kind of sort of grandstanding per se. So, I just got mixed feelings about TD Jakes. To me, I don't really trust any of the mega churches as far as the pastors and stuff like that. Because it's a lot of money, man. It's like more money than I ever would have thought. I mean, just about I don't know, a lot of people know this, but it didn't make national news, but it's something that should have been talked about. About, I want to say 3 months ago, Lakewood Church had a scandal where a plumber or somebody working on the bathrooms found over $500,000 in the walls. And found out they've been actually investigated because of that claim, and that was due to Hurricane Harvey. And so they claimed they had damage or whatever, so they hid $500K in the walls. And he came under a lot of scrutiny because he refused to let people, they thought he was going to open the church, so that homeless people could stay there, or other people who lost their home, and he refused to do that.
Yeah,
And he was
I remember that.
ugly about it.
Yeah, he was so nasty. And until people called him out on that. Brother, can I ask you a question? Would you agree with what I was saying about what Chaos had opened up the show talking about with TD Jakes, and how do you feel that the red pill is starting to affect the pastors, or do you think some of these black pastors have already been on the red pill? I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on that.
I don't think any of the pastors are on the red pill. I just think that they gonna speak their mind and say what they feel and feel what they say, and we have to understand that they had a life before they became pastors. So if some of those ideas fall in line with red pill, they may. But as far as them being red pill in itself, I doubt that seriously.
Right.
Because red pill is anti-Christian.
It really is. Most of it is. Yeah, that's true.
So it's so many. You cannot. And I'm gonna say this: you cannot dilute the value of your own woman. And red pill ideology does that, and that's not Christian. So, but you have to understand, when you've been in this space long enough. One thing that this space does is that they take popular figures or people, and if they say something that they think in some way is equivalent to what they talk about, they hold on to them and assume that they're automatically red pill, even though these people probably don't know anything about red pill at all. But they kind of do that a lot. They have a habit of grabbing on to people that may say a phrase or two that they may agree with, then they automatically assume they're being affected by the red pill. That's just not the case.
Right, that becomes the sound bite. But are you familiar with Pastor Geno Jennings? Now, Geno's been very controversial.
Yes.
Well, how do you feel about him?
I've been listening to Geno Jenkins. I'm gonna say this: Geno Jenkins is probably the first internet type, as far as YouTube pastor that I actually listen to consistently. And I've been listening to Geno since like 2000, maybe 19. And so what I took notice with Geno, which he does show too, because my thing is that he became popular in my position position was when he was debating other pastors, debating Muslim pastors, debating other pastors from other religions and other denominations. That was what I kind of gravitated to. Like I seen him. He debated a rabbi a few times. He debated Reverend Salas Muhammad from the kind of sect, that Muslim sect from Mississippi, which I actually met them in real life when I was in college. So I actually really met them, and I know some of the people that follow that particular Muslim sect. And so I actually like Geno Jenkins. He's very knowledgeable. He does put on a show. They do the debates and everything, but he does speak truth. Per se, he does strictly believe in the Bible word for word. I mean, he doesn't. Well, the thing that I like about him the most, he doesn't deviate from the Bible. Like if the Bible said it, that's what it is. He doesn't create his own interpretation.
Well, I don't know, brother. I take some issues with some things that I heard that I believe that Geno was putting his own spin to. But the reason why I brought him up is because, as I was sharing with Chaos, I don't know if you caught that part of the conversation, but, Geno is one of those pastors. He definitely speaks more about the traditionalism of, the black family and the family in the home. And I was, what I was sharing with Chaos is, it sounds like you and I both kind of come from, like you say, the church world. We're both Christians, and being black, we know that, quite frankly, the church doesn't have a lot of black male followers, but there are certain pastors like Geno. Geno's, guys love Geno. Matter of fact, I find a lot of women somewhat find him off-putting, but there's a lot of guys who love Pastor Geno. So yeah, that's what I was just mentioning, Chaos, and was curious if you were familiar with Geno as well.
Oh yeah, I'm very familiar. I've been following Geno since 2019. But I mean, I'm pretty sure he has probably. I've never heard him from anything deviate, but I mean, because he's human. I mean, everybody, they do. Because I would assume everybody deviates and do things, but when you look at people like Larry Reed, and a clown like Larry Reed, the theatrics that he put on, the church sector got people like him. They got another guy named King Jives. Guys like that.
I think Larry and Jives, I think those guys they're from the church world, but I think that they found a way, just like Chaos said, everybody's trying to turn $1 into $2. And so I almost feel like, you guys may disagree, but I almost feel like they kind of remind me of Kevin Samuels, just in a different way, where these guys come from the church sector, but they found a way to like, hey, how can I, kind of take some of that churchology and turn it into a buck?
They definitely have similarities to Kevin Samuels. There's a lot of similarities. A lot.
They found a way to turn it into a secular buck, and so I keep up with Larry. I don't keep up with Jives too much, but I just look at it. There's a lot of hustling going on in the church. I'm glad I have my own personal relationship with Christ.
Right.
I'm not against the church, but I can see why a lot of people who are not of our faith, that why they would be turned off. But let me ask you this question, and then, we don't want Chaos to get lost here, but let me ask you a question, brother. How do you feel about the fact that T.D. Jakes started out like with Woman Thou Art Loose and a very pro woman this and woman that? Now it seems like T.D. is kind of going in that manosphere kind of direction. And I think that's the essence of what Chaos wanted to, bring out. Do you feel that he's kind of shifting and going with the, whichever the way the wind is blowing now?
I don't think he's going the manosphere route. I just think I think personally that it was late on his part to preach that particular sermon, but I don't think he's going to deviate from what has been working for the last 35 years. I really don't. I think he may make women more accountable in a sense for certain things. And I think that the church, to me, just for black people in period, man, the church has failed black people. I'm just going to overall, there's a lot of things the church has failed in, and particularly the mega church. And the
mega churches are horrible.
Yeah, they're horrible. But to me, I just think that the church itself, ever since desegregation, they lost their way. And before desegregation, the church was the rock of black culture.
Yes.
And it has definitely gotten away from that. More money has gotten into the church. That's the biggest black corporation we have. And you have people who are now entering into the church who are not there for the church. They're there because they don't have other options. Like, a lot of these pastors you see now are people who are in prison, who don't have any skills, and the church is the only way they can see fit to make. And look, and I'm not saying some of them are not fit. Some of them probably are. I'm not here to judge. But the reality is that a lot of the church is filled with people like that. Then you got this new wave of pastor coming around, particularly on like Larry Reed and King Jives, who got, I'm not going to go into that route, but they have very questionable behaviors, personal behaviors and so forth. And they live for the limelight and so on. So, and then you got the other guy, even the cursing pastor, preacher, whatever. I watch him too.
That guy's an idiot. That guy is. And that's the thing too. And you hit something really good about the historical aspect of the black church. One of our most beautiful black pastors, ministers, preachers, was the great Nat Turner, right?
Right.
And even because I loved how Chaos opened up the show, reading, some of the historical things about how, that book was detailing about how to make a Christian out of the Negro and this sort of thing. But I love a quote that I heard that Frederick Douglass had gave. And he says, listen, he says, the white man has taught his own version of Christianity and have denied the black man from knowing the real authenticity, the real heart of Christianity. He says, because to know that absolutely would not leave any slave docile.
Right.
And when you think about the Bible, really in, truth, and then, we even hear how, a lot of times Hollywood, try to present another thing. But I mean, this is what Frederick Douglass and Nat Turner was saying. Nat Turner's like, hey, once I really got a chance to really read the Bible for myself, I'm like, wait a minute, Jesus said he came to set the captives free. And hey, listen, pull down strongholds, go to war. And so, it's beyond, it's by far, a docile book. And I think that, you look at guys like David and that sort of stuff. I don't want to get too deep into the theology of it all. But where I'm going with this is that I believe that what our society has done, the Black church at one point was the freedom fighter for our community.
Right.
And like you said, since the civil rights time, that's when they start realizing, hey, if we start writing these guys checks and letting them get some fat bellies hanging over their belts and, getting the perm, big worm, big perm kind of thing going on. This is when you start seeing the pimp pastor kind of thing taking over.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And then you start looking at the evolution of the moneymaker. Because remember, like, gospel music was very profitable.
Yes.
When you start looking at the gospel music, then they start going into the movies. Then you got people going, you're doing the pastors had their records and all this stuff. Like, I mean, the books and so the big money maker, what I see is the retreats. Like, they do these big retreats and different things where they traveling and they hosting
conferences.
These big conferences. That's the money now.
That's the money maker right there. That's like going on tour for a rock star or for a rapper. You know how you really make your money on the road? Those conferences, that's the money maker right there.
Yeah. So when and then you think about it, you have people now, like, I never forget this. I had I forgot this lady, this white lady that's a popular preacher, the one with the short brown hair.
Joyce Myers.
Yeah, Myers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a client of mine that was depressed and had issues psychologically because of her interaction. Chaos. Oh, you there?
Continue. I gotta shut this down.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I had a client that interacted with her, and she remembered she was actually attending her church when she was doing sermon. She was doing prayer services and things from her home, and she was with her from like the very beginning. And then she, like, as I was providing services for her, she basically changed my perspective of what I thought about, like, evangelists and prosperity preaching and stuff like that. Because she talked about Ann Myers, and she said how Myers started off just, she was just a simple woman in a trailer doing prayer service every Thursday. And then she started off with like 4 or 5 people. Then it grew to about 20, 30 people. Then she got a small little church. And then she was invited to speak or something like that. And she said the more popular that she got, is like the further and further away she got away from the people that kind of made her at the beginning. And she said that once they, like, what ended up happening when she got bigger, all of these new people came that were like image consultants. They kind of changed how she dressed, how she speak, carry herself. They just they just made her do a total 360. And she said that before you knew it, when she started being on television consistently, she was a different person. And she said that was actually hard for her to deal with, because she was really drawn to her, and she thought that was like her friend per se or something like that. And it took her years to get over that. And so it kind of changed when she started telling me about the business of it, the image, like the image consulting and development and all this other different stuff, and how a lot of these different mega churches, they consult with one another and they do different things and so forth, like the business behind it. I was like, wow. I was just amazed, because I didn't know it was like that. I just thought it was just people that they just grew a big church, and they were but she was telling me about the behind the scenes stuff. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's real bad, brother. It's real bad.
Right.
But listen, I know Chaos got to go. Brother, it was a pleasure talking to you. Chaos, always a pleasure. Guys, have a beautiful night. God bless.
All right, Chaos, man.
Take care, Miss Pat. Thank you, Miss Pat. All right. like to thank everybody for joining today's stream. Listen up. I said my piece on this subject and this title. Oh, and for y'all walk away, if y'all want to donate, please do. The Cash App's there at $ Chaos Rain 8 Rain. It's right there. One thing is evident that, like I said earlier, the church will soon, as an entity, especially for the black community, is slowly going to eventually dissipate. When you start interbreeding and creating what we call the tanning of America, I don't see much bigger church going to be standing in majority black cities or black people where they reside, because as a complexion change, so will churches. Because if you look at every other corner in other communities, you don't see a lot of churches besides us as a black community, and it's all intentional and all good for reasons, because it's the only resource that they could extract money through the community just for their own means and, you know, fill up other communities personally. But like I said, y'all guys could look into it more thoroughly than what I said today. I hope y'all got a lot out of this broadcast. Go back to replay. Looking forward to seeing y'all comments of this stream, hopefully. Because, you know, at times it's very interesting to get comments on a lot of these streams anyway. And like always, to find me, you can follow me on Twitter at ChaosRain7. Add me as a friend on Facebook, Eric Rain on Facebook. And join the Chaos Discord. That's all in the About section. Oh, and last but not least, the poll has been unanimous. So it seems like to me that the book by Charles Cocott Jones should be the next of many series. Be on the lookout. That's it. You know how it is, people. Until next time, people, you know where to find me at. And like always, let it get us. Ring.